All right, let's talk to Jim Miller,
Yes.
of course, former Bears quarterback, always part of the Bears family, Sirius XM. Great stuff there every day when I'm driving around, flip on NFL radio on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How you doing?
I'm doing great. A lot of fun with Pat Kerwin. He makes it fun. We literally laugh every break. I mean, it's a 4-hour ab workout, so we have a ton of fun. And Pat's really respected around the league, so I have it pretty good. He's a really good guy to work with.
Jim, let's jump in here. The Bears have won another offseason. This is they're red hot again in February, baby.
Yeah.
What's your breakdown of the Ben Johnson hire and everything that's going on at Hallis Hall?
Yeah, I think you got to slow your roll a little bit. He's got a lot of work to do. I do like Ben Johnson. I do like how he's called plays, how he's grown as a coach, and now that full responsibility is on his plate. Coaches that he's added, it's a mixed bag. I like some, and we'll see how others pan out. But he seems to have a plan in place, and where they take it from here, it's going to depend on the development of players and getting the right players for what his vision is for the team. But it starts over.
Well, let's talk about that mixed bag because, you as a quarterback, I'm just curious your perspective on this. Like, Ben Johnson obviously knows how to call plays. I'm not sure we've really seen him develop a quarterback. I mean, he certainly elevated Jared Goff to another stratosphere, but this is kind of a different uptaking here. And then the other aspect of this is the mixed bag of the staff. Your OC is Declan Doyle. How much input can he really have on a guy like Caleb Williams? And then J.T. Barrett is the quarterback's coach. So how can Ben Johnson – he's got to pay attention to 53 guys on the roster, and now you have one quarterback, coach in J.T. Barrett and a backup behind, Caleb Williams. That's Tyson Bagent. He's not a veteran. So I'm just curious about the people that are surrounding Caleb.
Yeah, you got two young guys that you're trying to develop. And I do like Tyson. When he got to play, the sack totals dropped considerably compared to when Justin was in there. So he can process information very quickly. He can get the ball out of his hand. He's an intriguing guy to watch moving forward. But I do like a veteran guy in the background with a young quarterback. And so many guys, and I can say this from my experience in playing, I know it helped me as a quarterback. Having, like when I got to the Steelers, having Neil O'Donnell, having Mike Tomczak, who you guys know well, two veterans, to watch them work, to watch them do what they do and say, not that you're going to emulate it because you're a different player, but how do you have command in the huddle? How do you tell grown men what to do? How do you take control of your team? How do you, check plays and do the things you do and need to do to, for an offense? For me, I've always dealt with the offensive coordinator specifically. Like Ron Earhart he ran our quarterback meetings. We didn't have a quarterback coach. Ron Earhart did everything, and he was a great coach who developed a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFL. And anywhere I went after that, it pretty much was the same. Even in Chicago with the stuff with Gary Croton, and then John Shoup took over, who was Ben Johnson's mentor. Shoup ran everything. He did our daily install with the offense. Then he went straight to the quarterback room. Jim, Shane, Kate, this is what I want. This is how we're going to do it.
So you're saying Ben Johnson can do everything?
Yeah, he can. Well, because he hired Dennis Allen, he's going to hang a heavy hat on Dennis Allen to control that side of the ball. He's got to get the offense right. I mean, there's no way to say this. The offense has sucked in Chicago for a long time. It's got to be fixed. It's a big problem. It's been a problem. You've already talked 2 first-round quarterbacks out of town. Here's your third shot. You can't screw this kid up. They got to get it right.
What would be the first things you'd be doing with Caleb? Because everyone sees it. He didn't have great protection in front of him, but he's also holding it too long.
Yeah, holds it too long. The sack totals are too high. That's not all on the offensive line. That's on Caleb. He's got to get better. He's got to work. He's got to prepare himself accordingly so he's ready to play a game. Now, whether that came from Shane Waldron, I don't care. You can't assume anything that Shane Waldron taught him. So just throw that away. Whatever trash can is around here, throw that whole playbook in the mix. Ben Johnson is going to say, these are the plays that we're running. This is how I want them run. These are your responsibilities. Now go get it done. And if he can't get it done, then the Bears need to find another quarterback to get it done, whether it's Tyson Bagent or whoever else they bring in here. So enough of the tail wagging the dog here. The players got to step up and do the work that's necessary to prepare to play football. And I have the same criticism of Justin Fields when he was the quarterback of the Bears. You can't line up against Minnesota in an empty and they bring a blitz on the first play of the game and tell me you prepare for the game, because you can't be a 2nd and 20 on your first play of the game. That tells me you did not prepare. Or the game against Denver when he didn't know on a bootleg naked that he's responsible for the Sam backer. Ironically, his teammate at Ohio State, Jonathan Cooper, who has a scoop and score for a touchdown.
Yeah.
That lost the game for the Bears, all because the quarterback didn't know what he was doing. So the quarterback has to know his job. And Caleb Williams better know his protections, because in order to remove all doubt, you have to know your assignments to do it. He better know his protections, or you're going to get sacked a lot. You're going to get sacked a lot unless you do that, or get rid of the football. So he needs to prepare himself for what he's going to be asked to do in a game in order to do those things.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, 68 sacks taken, and then another 50 where they were, quote-unquote, avoided. And you hear a lot of fans point to that. Like, oh, well, he avoided more sacks. Yes, the play caller holds responsibility. Offensive line, lack of talent, and continuity holds responsibility. They had injuries, too. But the quarterback also creates the chaos that he's trying to avoid.
Who was it in New Orleans? Because we interviewed way too many people. I'm forgetting who was the one that said pressures on the offensive line, sacks are on the quarterback.
Yeah,
it might have been Chris Sims. It's probably a little too simplistic, but I like the idea of that. Like, pressure is going to come, and that's going to be on the offensive lineman losing their one-on-ones. But at the end of the day, it's on the quarterback to not take the actual sack, get rid of the ball somehow, don't take a negative play. I'm just, as a quarterback, I'm curious your reaction to that idea.
Yeah, I mean, like three-step drops, you should never get sacked on a three-step drop. You hold the ball, and I've seen it happen. That can't happen. It's fire blocking. Three-step time, that ball should be out of your hand in 1.5 seconds. Five-step drop, the ball should be out of your hand minimum 2.6 seconds. Ideally, you want it at 2.4, and that clock has to be going off in your head. And when I even go to training camp, and you're just back there lackadaisical, I got all day, a buzzer should have been going off every time. Dude, you're sacked. The play's over. Yeah, it's no good, run it again. And until you do it correctly, we're not moving on. You got to get it right the first time. Otherwise, you're not going to get it right.
Well, they call it pressure to sack ratio, and the league average is around 15%. The best quarterbacks in the league are around 10% or even under. And
look at how bad
Caleb Williams is at over 30%.
Look how bad the tackle position sucked for Patrick Mahomes. He has won 17 one-score games. He had 7 last year, and their tackles were terrible. Go look at his numbers. He was the best in the league in fast pass getting out of his hand. Again, even five-step drops, 2.4 to 2.6. Made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and no different than the Tampa game they lost. He was running for his life because, they couldn't handle it anymore. Even him, you're going to be the human pinata until you get some pass protection, but he managed it all the way up to that point. But I think we know as you go along in the season, you're facing fiercer competition, especially in the postseason when you face a roster as good as Philadelphia that's stacked from head to toe. I mean, those guys absolutely annihilated the tackles of Kansas City, where it just became even unmanageable for him. That was that was the worst game they've ever played, and it was a lot due to Philadelphia.
So all this being said, and it's all valid. So, slow the roll on Ben Johnson a little bit. Caleb's got to be a lot better. The reality is the Bears do need to upgrade their roster if this thing's going to work. So
I'll say it on air again because I told you guys off the air. Who on Chicago's offense will start for the Detroit Lions right now? Other than Rome Odunze, not one of them.
Not even DJ Moore?
Not Caleb over Jared Goff. Not DJ Moore over Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. That's not going to happen. Their offense and their players are better than the Bears. So if the Bears fans thinks that playbook is coming to Chicago, until you get those players, then you'll have that playbook. Because he can't call those plays with the Bears players right now. Well, they can't run it.
Which spots would you want to see upgraded the most?
O-line. Yeah. I mean, again, they got Penei Sewell. I love Darnell Wright. I think he's a good right tackle. He's not as good as Penei Sewell. Frank Ragnow? Who are the Bears centers who are going to start over Frank Ragnow? Nobody. All right, left tackle, Taylor Decker. Who on the Bears roster is going to start over Taylor Decker? And we could go on and on and on. So if you say that playbook's coming to Chicago, I got news for you. It's not until they get the players to do it.
Well, the last good center in Chicago, might have been Luke Longley. I don't know.
Olin Kreutz.
Olin Kreutz, of course.
Olin will be in the Hall of Fame. That's a good center.
Well,
who
Right.
prepares himself every single week because he has pride.
Absolutely.
It's called professional pride.
Right.
And maybe some Bears players need to have some professional pride.
And some leadership, right? You know, it's not just getting talented players, but guys that'll lead that room.
Those players up in Detroit are self-starters. All right, that coach called out Jared Goff. If you start turning over the football, there was a 4-game stretch. He turned it over 7 times, and Dan Campbell said in public, because I live there, if you do that again, you will not be the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. And ever since that happened, Jared Goff got better and better and better because the tail doesn't wag the dog up there. The coach tells the players, this is what's going to be done. These are the type of players we want. If you don't like it here, you're not going to be here. Okay? And every player that they've drafted, from Brian Branch to Gibbs to all the Munra St. Brown, that Brad Holmes has knocked it out of the park. He has knocked it out of the park with their draft picks, and just look at their classes and how those guys have contributed and performed.
So Ben Johnson said something the other day that I was kind of like, I'm not sure if I want him saying that. He said that one of the things that excites him about Caleb is his ability to play off schedule. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there like, why don't we get him on schedule?
Yeah.
And then we can get to that. But I don't know. You're hearing
well,
him say that.
I mean, it is. I think in today's game, it's different. You know, guys like me are kind of dinosaurs. The Jared Goff, not that you still can't have success. We've seen Tom Brady and pocket passers do. But if you look at the postseason last year, all those guys are mobile guys. Mm-hmm. So they can, Patrick can really be a magician with the ball, with the stuff he does. And if you look at him towards the postseason, he's aware. Towards the end, if you look at his carries, he knows you got to get about 3 rushing first downs a game by a quarterback. The game he played Buffalo, both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes had 11 rushes to get first downs, to do it. They're conscious and aware that, hey, I'm going to make more plays here. I'm going to pick it up. If guys are covered, I'm going to take off with the ball. So to get off schedule like that can be a good thing in today's modern day NFL. But it's not a necessity. But if you do it, I think it adds another dimension that what defenses have to play against. But like I said, Purdy, Jared Goff, there's guys still mixed in there that you can win with that too if they're good decision makers and get rid of the ball.
When you talk about the tail not wagging the dog with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson here coming to Chicago at the podium, the one thing that stood out to me maybe the most of anything he said was, no block, no rock when talking about the wide receivers. And, if that's the way he's going to lead, then it gives me optimism. He's saying it here. It's a different thing to go in the locker room and say it, but it sounds like that's kind of how he wants to lead in the way that Dan Campbell tries to.
And you can prove it. I remember DJ Moore, his quote about Shane Waldron when they let him go is he kind of let things go. So they're in training camp where maybe a block isn't completed. Oh, we'll get it. Hey, well, it's all right. We'll get it the next time. That's not how you work in the NFL. Because if you're going to settle for that and they don't do it right the first time, that's, to me, complacency is the worst trait you could have, and players get complacent. Oh, they'll let that go. Okay. I'm just not going to go as hard on this play. What have you won to be out there dogging it?
Right.
I don't care where you've been or where you played. All they need to know is this is how we want you to play as a Chicago Bear.
Right.
And this is the standard, and this is how it's got to be done. And it's not half-assed. It's not, sorry, Coach, I'll get it the next time. Yeah, you'll get it. You're going to get us all fired is what the hell you're going to do. So you can't put up with that crap.
Right.
You can't put up with it. You got to weed it out of your building. And that's what Detroit Lions have done. Remember when Darius it's too cold out there to practice, and they were bitching about Matt Patricia. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes did exactly what they should have. Because if those guys have that type of mentality, you better wring your roster out like a wet towel. And that's what needed to be done. That's what Detroit has done, and they've changed it, and that's how you change a culture. And part of that needs to happen in Chicago. Because guys are like, it's defense, we're good. Dude, you sucked on offense for years. Start a new standard. Those players should be embarrassed how they played. And I would feel disgraced to look at my defensive players every single game and say, hey, guys, we let you down again. We let you down again. Good effort, but we let you down again. It's upsetting, and it pisses me off, quite frankly.
I'm getting fired up.
Well, that's what I mean. You played for the team. You've been covering them. Obviously, you've called all these preseason games for years, and you just sound fed up at this point.
Yeah, because they have no one but themselves to blame. And if that's what your expectation is, then you're going to continue to get that expectation. You know, if you're going to slap it out there and do it like that and not expect a certain standard, that's what you're going to get. Oh, we'll just accept the sacks and this is okay. And no, it's unacceptable. And like I said, you got to find somebody who can do it and who can correct it. And so the Bears have made that decision, and it's up to Ben Johnson to really correct it.
Well, let's go back to 2001 for 1 second here, because 13-3 Bears team, R.I.P. Dick Geron, you're at the helm. That was one of, and for a lot of Bears fans, that was one of the most fun seasons that they've ever had watching the team. I'm just curious, you know, your memories of Dick, your memories of that team, and why it was successful.
I'll never forget Dick Geron's first meeting. He comes in that auditorium, and I'll never forget this. He said, "We think you guys all have the makings of a Chicago Bear. Anybody who doesn't want to be here, I don't want you here. I don't want to coach you. I don't want our coaches to coach you. So if you don't want to be here, I'll find a place for you to be. My door is open," and certain guys did. Hey, man, I don't like it. Boom, he got him off the roster. What was left is a bunch of hardworking guys that had professional pride to know their assignments and work hard every single day to win football games. And when you get a bunch of guys like that, you will win a lot of football games because they took their job seriously, they came to work every day, and they went about their business. So pack a lunch, bring a flashlight, and good things will happen if you keep your mouth shut and you go to work. The Bears need to go to work. A lot of less of this talking, and they need to work. They need more action to what they're, we're going to be great. We got the first-round pick and think you won the Super Bowl. They haven't won anything since 85. Since 85. Enough. Get it done.
Yeah, I've been saying that all season.
Were you running down the field
talking.
with Keith Traylor? Were you doing a Jim Miller dance?
Keith Traylor, what a great teammate. Think of those guys. Ted Washington, Urlacher, Rosie Cole. Those guys had pride, man, and they worked hard every day. I mean, Ted Washington was a veteran at that point. That sometimes he couldn't even practice. But come game day, you knew you could count on Big Ted or Keith Traylor. Guys knew the guy next to him were accountable. They're going to show up. I wasn't the greatest athlete. I had a great offensive line because those guys worked their ass off. Olin was great, Big Cat, Chris Valero. Those guys worked their fanny off. We ran the football. A-Train was fantastic.
A-Train.
Because guys took it serious, and we went to work every single day. There's a lot of ebbs and flows to a season, and you just got to keep on working every single day, and that's what it is.
Kind of tying this all together as we'll let you go here, Jim, it's just making me realize I would love – when the team gets back together in April, because what I'm hearing from you is like Ben Johnson's message, like he needs to set the tone, he needs to set the culture like immediately so everybody understands what it is. Like April when they get together and they're allowed to come in for an extra mini camp because it's a new head coach, those are going to be some important days.
Yeah, and any free agents that they add are going to be important too. Yeah. Here last year they had Keenan Allen. Guy's very productive for the Chargers, coming in, dropping balls all over the place for the Chicago Bears, but yet yapping his mouth off. Enough. You didn't win out for the Chargers, and right here you arrive in Chicago where things are going poorly. So enough. We don't want to hear anybody talking. Guys need to go to work, and Ben Johnson should say the same message. Hey, guys, you haven't won anything. So just shut up and go to work, and we'll evaluate. We'll decide who's playing or not. I don't care if you're all-pro last year or you're an undrafted free agent. The best guy needs to play. And that's how you create competition on your team where there are no favorites. Because a lot of teams go into their offseason, we got our draft picks, we got our free agents, and kind of the last 5 spots on the roster you're fighting for. It's kind of set. What's great about, say, Pete Carroll or other teams around the league is they don't care. When you when you arrived in Seattle, you had a shot. Whether you're an undrafted free agent or, say, a third-round pick like Russell, hey, man, I got a legit shot to play here and be a starter because Pete Carroll does not care. No. He does not care. I will play the best player for us to win games is what. And that's why Pete Carroll went to 10 postseasons in 14 years in Seattle. 10 postseasons in 14 years and 2 Super Bowls.
You know what my biggest takeaway from this interview is? The Bears are giving out a lot of vice president titles these days. They need to hire you as like the vice president of get your shit
culture.
Together or something.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean,
I love it.
What can the players say at this point?
Yeah.
We don't do this. The coaches don't do this. They don't do enough. You have to be a self-starter.
Right.
I mean, the coaches give you the game plan. Sometimes you got to go above and beyond and do some extra. If you want to, if you're worth your salt as a player, and you got to take it personal. You got to have some professional pride, and you got to prepare yourself, because I just gave you examples earlier where players were not prepared to play. They weren't prepared to play. Now, whether that's on the coaching staffs, that's neither here nor there. Those are the sins of the past that can't be moving forward with the Bears, and that's what Ben Johnson has to correct. He has to correct that. That has to stop. The message comes from him, and he's got to decide if these guys are preparing themselves accordingly, and if they're the best players to be on the Bears.
Get the ground running, baby.
You got us fired up, Jim. Thanks so much for being here. Always great talking to you.
Thank you, guys.
On the field and off, baby.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
We all silly like the mayor.